Holding gun makers accountable after mass shootings. Some of the families of Uvalde victims are trying to make that happen.
We don't want to just bow our heads and move forward.
The strategy, they say, will help protect children and bring justice.
What happened in Uvalde can't keep happening.
CBS News Texas starts right now.
This is CBS News Texas.
Well, we've got a tough week ahead, if we're being fair and honest here. This week marks 1 year since the school shooting in Uvalde that killed 21 people, most of them 10-year-olds. The 18-year-old responsible, we know, was killed by police ultimately, but victims' families say that the broader problem of gun violence, a full year later, has yet to be addressed. Andrea Lucia takes a look at how they're trying to make a difference.
Everywhere you look in Uvalde, you'll find the signs of heartbreak. But 1 year after a mass shooting here, victims' families say little has changed to stop it from happening again.
Like, you can't get away from it because it's happening everywhere.
Christina and Ruben Zamora's 11-year-old daughter, Mayah, was shot multiple times in her classroom at Robb Elementary. The Zamoras both grew up in Uvalde and around guns, but now question just how accessible high-powered weapons should be.
Second Amendment means a lot to us, but we need to change something. You know, these guns, these kids are killing kids.
The Zamoras have joined 2 other victims' families to file suit against more than a dozen different defendants in an effort, they say, to get answers. But their toughest target is the gun industry.
Daniel's defense, they are the manufacturer of the assault-style weapon that the killer had on May 24th of 2022.
Attorney Antonio Romanucci, who's taken on high-profile battles on behalf of the families of George Floyd and Tyree Nichols, is now taking up the Zamora's case as well.
We're just trying to find accountability in what happened.
The challenge, a 2005 law known as PLCAA, the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, which protects gun makers from liability for shootings. Attorneys for the families of the Sandy Hook Elementary victims, though, found one possible catch that garnered them a $72 million settlement against Remington. Now Romanucci is adopting the same legal strategy.
By looking at how they market these weapons to young adults. So when you market these guns to first people who are 18 and younger, that's a violation of the law.
His lawsuit includes examples of Daniel Defense's social media posts it says are geared to children, a Halloween message asking, "What did you dress up as?" and another showing Santa Claus with the company's AR-15.
Overall, great weapon and a really great build, so I'm glad they put this in the game.
Daniel Defense has also used product placement in the video game Call of Duty, which the lawsuit calls popular among teenagers and adults, including the Uvalde, Parkland, and El Paso mass shooters.
It is manufactured by Daniel Defense.
In Uvalde, a state report says the killer spent over $2,000 on a Daniel Defense AR-15, despite likely never having fired a gun other than in the video game.
It absolutely grooms them to want to own these guns because it empowers them. They feel empowered. It attracts a particular person.
In a court filing, Daniel Defense argues PLCAA's immunity extends to any liability for its marketing practices too. But Romanucci hopes to prove otherwise, forcing Daniel Defense to pay enough money it'll make gun makers think twice about how they advertise. And whether you know it or not, the Zamoras say this is a case that could one day affect you.
This threat in particular, you know, with assault rifles and stuff like that, that is something that I feel like I never thought it would ever be a problem. You know, I felt other people were handling stuff like that. You know, government had that handled. Law enforcement knows what to do. I had 100% confidence that it was, you know, something that was being taken care of.
And we reached out to Daniel Defense and its attorneys asking about the allegations in the lawsuit. We have not yet received a response. Romanucci says his ultimate goal, though, is to replicate what happened with the tobacco industry, and that is, like with cigarettes, not to make guns illegal, but to keep them out of vulnerable hands, limit the danger they pose, and to make sure that they are advertised responsibly.
Well, listen, there's a lot of voices in the room on this, clearly, but at the end of the day, the people who have lived the living hell that they did a year ago have a seat at the table, and they have a say in all of this. And what the outcome down the road is, we'll have to wait and see, because lots of voices, obviously, but they sit at the head of the table, these people.
Absolutely.
Andrea, thank you. We appreciate it. By the way, there is no more school this week for students in Uvalde. They did go today, but ahead of the one-year mark of the shooting, they are done for the week. City leaders have asked for compassion and privacy for the families. In fact, speaking to reporters today, the mayor of Uvalde expressed his frustration over the lack of answers when it comes to the investigation, and also who he thinks should be held accountable.
A lot of these families still have children at home, and they're still caring for their children. And like I said, we can't even imagine the pain that they felt. In a year's time, they still don't have answers to simple questions that they should have gotten. I mean, I'm the mayor. I've been 1 year. I haven't got one briefing from anybody from day one. Not one. Nor has the county judge. That's very frustrating. So if it's frustrating on us, you can only imagine what it does to them.
As for what's next for Robb Elementary, Uvalde CISD interim superintendent says litigation has tied up the planned demolition of the school. He is hoping that things will get cleared up with that over the summer. Be sure to stay with CBS News Texas throughout this entire week as we take time to remember the victims of the tragedy. We'll sit down with survivors. We'll also dig into what changes are being made to keep your students safe in school. You can also head to our website anytime. Click on the tab Uvalde 1 year later. We've compiled a lot of compelling stories to share with you there.